Hey guys, this is Anthony Morganti from anthonymorganti.com, and this is episode 29 of Photo Critiques. And in Photo Critiques, people send me in some of their best work, and I critique each image with suggestions on how they can improve it. And today, I'm pleased to again critique the work of Elenilson Segura. You might remember that name. I critiqued Elenilson's work in episode 12. And I don't mind if you guys want me to critique your work twice, 3 times, 4 times. It's fine with me. You send it in though, it's going to go to the back of the line. So I do everyone in order. So, right now I'm running about 3 weeks on the critiques. So if you send them to me now, I won't get to them probably till next month. But I do appreciate everyone watching and sending in their critiques, and I'm glad to do it. Okay, this first shot. This is obviously Yellowstone National Park. And it's one thing I should add real quick, Elenilson shot the first few shots with a point-and-shoot camera, and you could tell that with that 5.2 millimeter shot, focal length. So I'm going to give suggestions, composition, which you could do with any camera, but any other suggestions I give about f-stop and that really applies only to a DSLR. So in this case, the composition, what's bothering me about it, because the subject is the spring here, the steam and the water, that's the actual subject, what we're looking at, what we're interested in. But this bush just my eyes keep sticking on that bush. So when I'm trying to look at the shot, I keep coming back to this bush. And that's something you want to minimize in the shot. You don't want that. Now, how could he have got rid of that? I don't know. This is, probably an observation area, and he probably was limited in size. But I do see, it looks like a part of a bush over here. I'm not sure how big it is, but perhaps Elenilson could have moved to the right a little bit and balanced the shot by having this bush further to the left and this bush about equidistant from the side on the right. And he would have shot more in this direction. And I think it would have balanced the shot a lot more, and my eyes wouldn't be dwelling on this bush. I'd be seeing the whole shot. Other than that, it's a very nice composition as far as color. The sky isn't blown out. Very nicely done. Very well balanced. Now for a DSLR, I would suggest you shoot in aperture priority mode. I would put my f-stop around f11. Between f8 and f16, don't stop your lens all the way down. I mentioned that many times. That isn't as sharp. Lenses aren't as sharp when they're stopped all the way down to f22. Some lenses go to f32. That causes a thing they call diffraction, which really distorts the light, and the image is just not as sharp. So f8 to f16, in this case I would say definitely f11 would be the way to go in aperture priority mode. Have your ISO as low as your camera will put your ISO. Most cameras it's 100, some are 200, some are 50. If possible, do 50, but usually it's ISO of 100. And then look at your shutter speed that your camera's telling you. If it's hand holdable, then that's fine. But I would suggest even then, if it's 1/125th of a second, 1/250th of a second, if you have a tripod and you can use it, use the tripod. The shots are always crisper with a tripod, and so if possible, use the tripod. If it might be necessary to use the tripod if the shutter speed's that slow. So that's what I would suggest on this shot. This is right in my backyard. This is Niagara Falls. I don't live too far from here, although this is the Canadian side of the falls. I live on the US side of the falls. This railing over here, that has to go. So you're going to have to lean in as far as you can. I think I have about 10 shots from this exact same spot. And this railing was always an issue. You have to lean way out to try to get the shot. Be careful you don't fall. And the other thing is this tree or bush, or I think it's a sapling. It's too dominant in the shot, and it's a little distracting. So you either have to reposition yourself so you minimize this tree. When you lean way out, of course the tree is going to be moving to the right also, so that might help minimize it too. If you use a vignette too, it might help further minimize it. But your best bet is probably just to reposition yourself somewhere along this walkway, so you could get this tree out of the shot. And again, try to take the shot so you eliminate this railing. Now, one thing I should add that for Elenilson to send me his photographs through email, they were really, really small. And when I initially opened up in Lightroom, they were just a tiny bit bigger than the Niagara Falls, Horseshoe Falls is right here. And we wouldn't have been able to see them. So I enlarged them. I made them bigger. By doing that, though, they were JPEGs to begin with. So by doing that, they're not as clear. You know, they lost some resolution. Because now, if I had the raw file here after I did developing to this point, I would have done, because it's overcast, the light is very flat, I would have added those brush strokes. I do this in almost every episode, I think, of photo critiques. I would have just added some various brush strokes here and there, some a little light, some a little dark, and this is akin to dodging and burning, and this will just add some depth in the shot. And that's what I would say, is just add a bunch. You know, the more, don't stick with one and put one light one everywhere. Do one light one there, one light one there, one light, you know, so you can have more control over them. So that's what I would say, is to add some brush strokes, just to it adds a little depth to the image, it adds some interest, and just, you know, here and there, take your time. You know, I've done this where I've put some on, take some off, put some on. It took me an hour, you know, to get them to where I like them. But that's what I would suggest you do. Now, like I mentioned, they don't look as good in this image because it's a JPEG with poor resolution because I blew it up. And on the raw file, they'd look a lot better. They tend to have very low contrast when you do it on an image like this. But that's with them off, that's with them on. You might like what I did, you might not like you did. Like, just glancing at it now, I don't think it improved it much. But it's something to think about, and something, a tool to have in your toolbox to bring out when you want to add some interest, some depth to the shot. This is another really interesting perspective of Niagara Falls. Again, this was the point and shoot camera, so there's not a lot I could suggest that he could improve the shot with the point and shoot, because I think he nailed it with the point and shoot camera. It's a good shot. I like the color over here. Now, if you had a DSLR, you want to really exploit this color. So you want this as in focus as possible. But then again, you still want this part, you know, the falls out here in focus too. You could get away with the clouds being a little softer, but it wouldn't hurt to have those really in tight focus also. So what you're going to do is really bring your lens f-stop down. I mentioned on the previous shot in Yellowstone, f11 would be good. In this one, I'd go to f16 to make sure I got the maximum depth of field. Now, where do you focus? I'm not a big fan of hyperfocal focusing. That's a very popular thing to do, and what that is, I'll explain briefly, is you usually nowadays there's a smartphone app for it. In the old days, we had charts, and what you would do is you would figure out the focal length. Now, this was a point and shoot at 5.2 millimeters. That's not realistic of what he was shooting if it was a DSLR, but let's say it was 20 millimeters with a DSLR. You would look up on the chart or dial into your smartphone app that your focal length of your lens is 20 millimeters, and then you would put in your f-stop, and I suggested an f-stop of 16. You'd put that in. The smartphone app will return the distance, where that if you focus on that distance, let's just for the sake of argument say that it's 3 meters. If you focus your lens at 3 meters, you'll have the greatest depth of field possible. So as much in front of the focal point will be in focus, and as much behind it will be in focus as possible. So that's a possibility. You could, if you're a fan of hyperfocal focusing, bring out your smartphone and get an app and dial in those numbers, and then it's going to be a chore though to try to focus at, let's say, 3 meters, because most of the lenses today don't have the distance anymore on the focus ring. In the old days they did. If you have a lens that does that, then fine, try to dial it into 3 meters and you're at the hyperfocal focus distance and you're good. Now, if you don't have a smartphone, or you don't want to mess with apps, or you don't want to do anything, what I would do is I would probably focus at, like, maybe up in here. I'd focus up in here, or right in here, because I know that's going to give me at f16, all this is going to be a nice tight focus, and that's going to give me good depth of field. But you know what? I wouldn't take one shot. I'd focus here, too. Take another shot. Then I'd focus out further, take another shot. Just, nowadays shots are free. In the old days of film, the most I could get was 36 images on one roll of film, and then I had to pay for the film, and then I had to pay for the processing. Now these digital images are free, so don't be afraid to take as many shots as you can, and that's what I would suggest with a DSLR f16, and shoot so that this part is in really tight focus, because the color here, you want to exploit it, you want people to look at this, so you want that in nice focus. Then they look through the rest of there's a little framing going on here, and they see the rest of the shot, and the sky is really interesting, and it's an interesting shot. Now he's using a DSLR. In this case, f11 is perfect. That's what I would suggest. I don't know, some DSLRs only go to ISO 200 as low as they go, but if it went to 100, I would have dialed in 100. 1/200th of a second, so you could handhold this shot. But again, if you have a tripod and you could use it, use it. I don't know, this piece of art, I guess that's like a panther or a cougar or something. Very interesting piece of art. The colors are very nice. He saturated them, which is a style that I appreciate. Very good. It's a little dark, a little underexposed, which is okay. That's another style a lot of people like. Just remember, if you print, I mentioned this before, if you're going to print this, it won't come out as good. Generally, something a little brighter prints better. So like stuff over here just won't look right when it's printed. But other than that, it's a fine shot. This bench is cut off. I mean, that's nitpicking a little bit. If you could have just backed it out just a little bit to get that whole bench in there, that would have maybe improved the shots, minutely. But that's what I would suggest on this shot. Other than that, I think it's a really nice shot. This very nice shot. I think Elenilson told me he was in Vermont when he took this shot. And of course, the subject is the beautiful fall foliage. We have a slight leading line, this path right here. The only thing I would have suggested he could have did was to get lower, and and exploit this leading line better. And if he got lower, he would have made this a little more dominant in the shot, and it would have helped lead our eyes through the shot to this beautiful fall scene. Something I want to point out, if you remember that shot of Yellowstone, that was this one here, this first shot, how this bush was bothering me, and I suggested that he move to the right and try to get this bush more in the shot and make it kind of symmetrical. And I won't call that framing, because technically it really isn't framing, but you're getting stuff on either side that could be distracting, that help balance the shot. And in this shot now, we have this tree and this tree are the two biggest things in the shot. Well, there might be a tree over here, but you get my idea. If Elenilson was too far to the left, this tree would have been too dominant in the shot, and being cut off at the top, it would have distracted us. Being too far to the right, this tree over here would have probably been too far into the shot and distracting. So he has this kind of partial frame. It makes it symmetrical and balanced. And I think if he got lower, he could have exploited that leading line too. So that's what he did right in this shot, was having these on either side of the frame, makes it balanced. And I would have liked to seen him do that with that Yellowstone shot. And this is his last shot. This is, again, just beautiful colors. That's the subject here, the beautiful colors of the shot. The only thing I would definitely take this shot. Then I would take more shots. I would suggest that if there was a child with them, maybe have the child walk through the leaves diagonally. It would have been an interesting leading line, the footprints of the child, have them kick the leaves and try to get the leaves flying up through the air. Be imaginative, be creative. If you have a dog, maybe if your dog's well behaved and could stand there and look back at you, that would be interesting. It's unusual. The more unusual, the better. Usually, if you have a three-legged dog, that would be perfect. Have a three-legged dog there. You get my idea. Just experiment with it and work with it and work the scene. Try different things. What I'm saying by introducing the child or introducing a dog or something like that, that gives us kind of a definitive subject to lock our eyes on. Right now, you're looking at this shot and you're going, yeah, the colors are really beautiful, and you're not really settling on anything. But if you had something in here that we could settle on, something that we could look at and say, wow, that's pretty cool, a little boy, a little girl kicking leaves, or maybe a little boy and girl holding hands or something, and not staring back at the cameras. Be creative, having them walking away from the camera or something like that. And then you'd see, after you looked at that subject, then your eyes would start checking out the rest of the photograph, and you'd be dwelling on the photo longer, and it would be more appealing. So that's just a suggestion, not just on this shot, on any shot. You see something, try it out, then try something off the wall. And remember, the shots are free, so take a bunch of them and see what you come up with. And that's it. I really appreciate Elenilson sending me in his work. And I'm getting a little better at the names, but not much. But I'm trying. And if you guys want to send me in work for me to critique, send it in to critiques@anthonymorganti.com. And as I mentioned, I'm running about 3 weeks now. So if you send them in, you won't hear from me for a few weeks. And I'll do my best to do them as quick as possible, though. And I'd like to thank everyone who has subscribed to my YouTube channel. And if you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it if you did. And that's it for now. I'll talk to you guys soon.